That was bad. That was bad. Come on, Michael, you can do better than that.
That's a dad joke.
You're listening to the Nerds Out of Order podcast, Nerd News, with Michael Lobb and David Camus. Nerds Out of Order is a podcast brought to you by us, Michael and David. David runs a company called One Bright Cloud, where he heads up a team of tech and futurists looking at autonomous vehicles, AI, and public safety.
And Michael runs TeamScale, who helps company keep software development projects on time and on track. We challenge our own perspectives and try to see things from each other's. You don't need to agree, but after listening to this podcast, and after 30 minutes, you'll definitely have an idea on what we're talking about.
Okay, so I saw an article in the IT News, itnews.com.au, that said that the IT contractors are now costing the Commonwealth over $1 billion.
Ooh.
And we're looking further into it, into the digital dashboard, it's actually more like $1.8 billion. So I know that you have worked in government a lot, and maybe we don't want to say where. You know, some of the unions in that represent full-time people working in IT in the government have called on the government to stop IT outsourcing. I know you have an opinion on this. We've discussed this many times, but I'd just like your opinion on the $1.8 billion that the Commonwealth is spending on IT contractors. Is that all they're spending? Should they be spending more?
Maybe they are spending more. As you say, the IT dashboard, both the Queensland and the federal one, shows differing costs around the nation. Yes, I think it's warranted. The articles do not talk about the outsourcing initiatives that the feds and Queensland are moving to try and remove IT from government. So basically putting IT in as a service. But
right.
We need to think about that in a bigger picture of how much it's been costing and how much governments are moving to it.
Okay, so IT as a service is where they're basically saying, we're in the business of running a government. We don't want to run IT. We don't want servers. We don't want phones. We want someone to give us that service and charge us for it. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So we've got IT as a service. We've got software as a service. We have hosting as a service. They're all coming from varying different directions. And all of this costs money.
Right.
And the people, you and me, we are asking for more and more detail about where that money's going. Mm-hmm. And all of that costs money to be able to work out exactly where our rates is being spent.
Right. So reporting and being able to say your rates are going to pay for, 1% of that is going to pay for our help desk service. 15% of that is going to pay for whatever. And not just rates, but taxes and everything, I guess.
That's right.
Taxes,
and that also includes your garbage collection and your roads and everything else. So there's a lot involved in this.
Okay, you and I both work for small companies. Some might call them small, some might call them super. A lot of the companies that are bidding and winning these projects are mega outsourcing companies, or they're vendors that come in and say, we can do everything from go to woe on everything that you've got. We can do your phones, your servers, your IT help desk, your projects. We can take on software development. We can put in software as a service. Everything, just give it all to us, and we're going to charge you an arm and a leg for that.
Yeah.
My problem is that small companies that do have expertise in particular areas, don't necessarily get a view in, because these big companies have got such massive clout when it comes to these contracts that come from the government.
And
what are your thoughts?
That's the same as when we're talking about the consulting. We have the big four out there, and they take on so much of the consulting work right across government. But the big companies...
Hang on, just to interrupt you there for a moment. The big four for me are Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax. Can you just tell us who the big four are for you?
Yeah, I can tell you that quite easily. And it isn't Iron Maiden, but it could be. But KPMG, EY, Ernst Young, Deloitte, and PricewaterhouseCoopers. They're the big four that take on the consulting work and the management consulting work right across government.
Right.
What we really need to be careful of is this move to COTS, so off the shelf. Everything's got to be off the shelf, commercially available off the shelf product. We in government tend to purchase things from overseas because they are the newest and the brightest and the prettiest things out, thinking they will be perfectly aligned when we put them in. We spend many millions on these products and then we find they don't fit.
That's not just a government thing. That happens in every company, every small company. Someone comes back from a trade show where they've been presenting the latest in reporting technology for your industry, and all of a sudden you've got directors of a small company coming to you as an IT provider saying, well, we're going to get this thing and we're going to get this thing, and you've got to say to them, hang on a minute, you can already do that using the software that you've got. What is this thing going to give you that
I agree.
You're not going to get from that other thing? I saw a tender coming out the other day for a learning management system. I won't say who it was for, but they wanted to replace a learning management system that has been in 2 years with another learning management system that they have yet to decide on what they're going to use. And the reasons for this were very vague and shady. And it's as if, well, we don't like that one anymore, and people have said that there are better ones out there, so let's just try and see if there are any better ones. And that's a over $1 million tender, and it's just crazy that you'd think, you've already got this thing installed, you've already spent $1 million putting something in. Why do you want to change that? Why not just fix the problems that are wrong with it, or work to customize the application that you've put in to make that work better?
And not only have you paid to install it, you've trained people, you've trained help desk, you've trained staff, you've rolled it out. People are now used to it. If it's been in for 2 years, they've been operating. So what are the requirements? Where did the requirements go wrong? And most of the time, I find both small companies and large companies just don't have requirements written down to the detail they need to have it, especially when someone's come back from a trade show and they're retrofitting requirements.
Yeah, and for me, it's not requirements, it's outcomes. What's the outcome you're trying to achieve from this particular package that you're putting in? The outcome is, I want to be able to teach my staff how to use a particular particular methodology using online training, and where we get to is, we don't have the HTML editor that's producing the correct level of HTML compliant code, and it just drives me senselessly nuts.
So going back to your original question, the cost is over $1 billion a year. Is it warranted? In my opinion, you are getting specialty expertise in to do specific pieces of work, whether it be in the military, health, education, transport. All of these areas have evolving technologies and evolving capabilities that need specialty people that you don't want to bring in-house.
That's a really good point. You may need a specialist for 6 months. There's no point in employing that person. When you can find someone bring them in as a contractor temporarily, they get their job done, they get out, and they move on to their next gig. And they also bring in information from their last gig and the gig before that, where they can say, this is how to do it quickly.
And then they hand over to the IT support desks and the supporting teams the knowledge that needs to be handed over at the level they need it, rather than at the highly experienced level that they're implementing it at.
Yeah, now this is all living in utopia, obviously, because I don't see this happening often.
Yep, it's all utopia.
Yep.
Okay, we're talking about IT and bringing in new technologies. Victoria, they're just about to bring in AI into their emergency call centres to detect whether you're having a heart attack. So this is a piece of listening software that listens to your voice, listens to the words you're using to determine whether you're having a heart attack or not.
So I call 000. Let's say I call 000. I'm on the phone and I'm unable to say some words. I'm unable to articulate what's happening, but the AI is going, I've heard this before, and at that particular point in time, this person was having a heart attack. This is probably more likely to be a heart attack than another call. So therefore, we should mark this, put a marker on this call to say that this could potentially be a heart attack. Is that what's happening?
That's right. So you dial 000 or maybe 131 Health, one of those helplines, and you say a number of words and your voice is sounding a particular way, and the distress is then picked up by the AI and it highlights it as a category 1, and an ambulance is sent out, lights and sirens, rather than going through the whole mental health issue. Are you okay? How's it going? And they can get an ambulance out to someone who's possibly having a heart attack quicker than before.
Right. Brilliant. I've got absolutely no problems with that. That's amazing.
This is AI being introduced into 000, into the call centres, that will cost an enormous amount of money to deliver.
Yeah.
$1.36 million.
Wow. Okay. Yep. But, hey, how much do you put on a life?
Very hard one, that one. It's a very hard one.
Over time, this could actually save a lot of lives, given that, when someone's having a heart attack, they may not be able to actually articulate what's happening to them using words that a trained emergency worker would be able to have a good understanding of what sorts of things are happening, but this could just give us the extra edge and save it 1 or 2 more lives per year from cardiac arrest. Because I don't know if you knew this, but I was watching this infographic the other day that shows everything from shark attacks through to cardiac arrest, including cancers and all sorts of things that you could be killed by. And cardiac arrest makes up more than half of the deaths that occur. It was
Yep, I would agree with that.
Beyond comprehension how many people die from heart attacks every year. And
I, for one, have had 3 suspect heart attacks, and one of those I didn't dial 000 because I didn't think it was a heart attack. I dialed 13 Health, and they worked out over the phone using the question and answer papers they have that it was a heart attack.
Oh my God.
And a big shout out though right now to the people who are developing this. This is this AI is being developed by Monash University and Ambulance Victoria, and I fully support it.
Yeah, so when are the other states going to put it in? Obviously there's going to be some sort of level of research in this, and once this is in Victoria, then it could be rolled out to other states and other territories around the world, so pretty important. You won't believe what they've done here, but I want to talk about clickbait.
Clickbait?
Yeah, so clickbait is where they give you some sort of line or image or something like that says, you won't believe what this celebrity said when the cameras were off. And the idea is to bait you into clicking that ad. And when you get there, it's just an ad for, whatever, some sort of pill that enhances performance or, cryptocurrency or something like that.
Sounds like Facebook, sounds like LinkedIn, sounds like so many.
Yeah, so one of the interesting things is I've been using ad blockers and some other technical wizardry on my browsers and things to stop those sites recording my click history and my browser history. The interesting thing is how my Facebook feed has changed since I've been doing that. So I used to get very highly targeted ads telling me that only men who are born in December should buy this T-shirt, and that T-shirt happens to have a picture of an amazing guitar with Legend Michael printed on it. So that to me is hugely targeted. They know my name's Michael. They know when I was born. They know that I'm played guitar in bands before. And since I've been using these ad blockers and things, it's been really heavily replaced with very poorly worded clickbait that is not relevant at all. And now I feel as if I'm seeing the lowest of the low when it comes to ads, because they're just going, well, we don't know what to advertise to this guy, so give him something that he's going to click on. Anything.
Well, first of all, I'm surprised that you get the same T-shirt ads that I get. But
Hopefully you'll
that's okay.
say David.
They do say David. So what are you using to block these? What ad blockers are you using?
I'm using a combination of Brave. I'm using an ad blocker built into my VPN that I use. I'm also using an ad blocker that is in Chrome, and I've tried a few of them, so I don't know which one I'm using at the moment, but I tried different ones to see how they work. It was kind of an experiment to see how the advertising would change. And it has. It really has changed. So I think for the next month, I'm going to stop using those ad blockers. I'm going to see how the ads start targeting me again. But I'm interested. Do you see these highly targeted ads, and do other people in your family see these?
Yep, I see them quite definitely, and I'm not one to hit on these the buttons that say, "Look what this person has done now. Look how they've gone," and et cetera,
you won't
et cetera.
believe. Yeah, I probably wouldn't. I probably
Look
wouldn't
at what
believe
the
it.
economy has done now.
But
I don't click on it, but I still get these ads.
Why don't you click on it? Because
does that mean I've clicked on one?
I've seen people that that are just compelled to click on these things. Wow, do you see what Chris Hemsworth's advertising at the moment? And he's not. He's just being photoshopped. I don't know. I think that it's the lowest form of advertising, and I think that people who do this should be ashamed.
But this is how Facebook advertise. That's my belief. This is what Facebook advertising is all
Facebook
about.
don't advertise. People advertise on Facebook.
Very well said. This is how people advertise on Facebook.
Yeah. So I just want to read some clickbait that I've seen. This guy went to hug an elephant. What happens next will blow your mind. Number 2. These facts about childbirth will change the way you look at life forever. Number 3. What this little kid can do with a bongo drum will make you sob uncontrollably until you burst. Now, I personally wouldn't click on any of those, but, you might. You probably won't. But
there are people who will click on them, and they must click on them because they're pushing them more and more. And it's sad but true. I'm just reading it here. It's sad but true. But when it comes to clicking links online, most of us are very gullible.
Yeah.
It is true. It happens all the time. Why? Why do we do it?
They must be selling something that is, they must be selling a lot to be able to want to continue to do it this way.
Or they must be buying something, or they think they're going to get something above everybody else if they click on it.
Wow, I'm getting targeted ads just for me about this guy who wanted to hug an elephant. I love elephants.
So is it unethical or is it ethical?
Oh, it's preying on dumb people. There, I said it.
Yeah, it's an ethical advert.
It's not. It's got nothing to do with. It's got nothing to do with anything.
It has an unethical comment.
Yeah, it's an unethical headline that points to an ad for a dodgy product that you wouldn't even buy on as seen on TV show.
So with Instagram moving across and being purchased up, and it's coming more and more like Facebook every day, are these appearing on Instagram?
For me,
you do Instagram, don't you?
I'm finding that the ads on Instagram are far too similar to posts on Instagram. I can't tell the difference sometimes, and sometimes I'll go to double click to say I like this, and it's actually an ad, and that to me that's wasting my time because I've got to go back and I've got to do all this stuff, and I just find it frustrating. I'm okay for ads if they're meaningful and if they are suited to me, but I don't want this bullshit that comes out of trying to sell crap that they get from, I don't even know where they get it from. But yeah, to me, advertising like this is insidious and they're selling junk and they're not selling it to me. And perhaps if I switched back to using Facebook like a normal person, I'd get these ads that were actually targeted towards me and I'd be a lot happier.
Oh, would you?
All right, so I want to talk about something that happened to me this week. This is something that happens to small companies and large companies and probably in government as well. Companies and people in charge of certain areas of companies think that software development and IT is simple when it's not. They underestimate the complexity of something. Now, I had a friend, I won't call him out on this, but he asked a designer for a new theme for his website. And the designer, went away and took down his website and reapplied another theme. And during the process, removed all of his, in fact, his entire website. It's not back up yet, and it's been a week.
Ouch.
So I find that a mistake that people make in business is they often underestimate the impact or the complexity of a task that they think is very simple, and they ask people within their company to do that thing. The people within that company who are doing that thing don't feel as if they have the authority to stick their hand up and go, are you sure you want that? Because that's not what I understood. So what I've done is put together a checklist of things that business people should ask before they start someone doing some IT project, whether that's installing new phones, changing their website, putting some new software in, or whatever. And I'm interested in your feedback on this, David. So the first thing they should do is just understand what's involved in this change. So they can go to a whiteboard, list out the steps, and what that does is it forces you to think about the steps that are involved in doing this change. So in this case, by my friend asking his developer or his designer, what's involved in this? They might have actually thought about this in detail and gone, well, you know what, we probably should be doing this in a development environment first before we actually push it out to live.
Now, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, the second thing that they should do is think, what's the absolute worst that could happen? And what's the impact of that? So in this case, he's been without a website for a week. Now, in this particular case, it's probably not so bad, but if you were getting, 200 or 300 hits a day, and you're getting, a good amount of leads from that, that's a fairly significant impact. And it's easy to assess what the impact would be. All you got to do is think, if it all turns to shit, what's going to happen? And, let's say we're putting in a new phone system and the worst happens and it doesn't work. Well, you've lost your phone system. Are you using your phones for getting calls, or can you rely on your mobiles? The third thing is think, if everything does turn to crap, how do I roll it back? Do we have a backup? What's the plan with that? Have we tested the backup? Or do we just roll forward if there's an issue? Like if there is an issue, can we just spend a couple of hours and get it right? But just talking about that and understanding it is probably is going to save you in the long run. And the last thing is to make sure that you do everything in a staging environment first. So don't do things in production environments without testing it out. That's all I'm saying. Just as a quick go-to as well, and David, I know you do this with me all the time, is an idiot check. So you run this all past someone else. So you just, as a business owner, you turn to someone who you trust and you say, hey, I'm going to do this change. Here's what we're thinking about doing. What do you think? And often that person will ask you a question like, oh, did you think about, what happens if the website's not available? And that gives you the confidence to say, yeah, okay, well, I didn't think about that. Let's go and ask. You shouldn't say go to your development team before they can answer these questions either. So if they can't answer these questions, then they're not thinking. Is there anything else you would add to that, David? Or is there any questions or any thoughts on that?
Well, I've got a lot of thoughts on that. What you've just highlighted there in a small aspect is basically what came out of the response to the Queensland Health payroll disaster of 2010. And I will say it was a disaster because the Queensland Health went live with payroll. It's very well documented, and the whole government did a review, and it came out with very similar dot points to you work there. What's involved with the change? We weren't aware of what was going to be involved. What happens if it goes wrong? What is the impact? Well, we didn't think about that. How will you roll back? Well, we couldn't roll back. Is there a staging environment? No, we didn't have a staging environment. We went live. So in massive aspect, you have just put into 4 dot points an absolute a list that we should check off. And you know me, I do a lot of implementations. People like you go through, you develop the software, you design the sites, and then I go through and I implement behind the scenes. And I always do these idiot checks, and then I peer review it. I do an implementation plan and I get it peer reviewed. Change strategies, and you peer review it. And it doesn't matter how small the site or the application may be, it'll be just as important to that company as it would be to a large company, as it would be to a government agency.
So what you're saying is I can send my bill to the whole of government for these 4 dot points?
I think you get. I think they might already have those 4 dot points in some form of summary already, but you've done it really well.
You know what it's like.
They've
They've probably spent $13 million getting a white paper that's 200 pages long just to say these 4 dot points.
Probably nearer $1 billion, because that was the cost of IT this year.
With small business, you don't have money to waste. So this is,
that's right.
You just don't have money to waste.
And that comes back, do I really need a backup? You've done this before. Do we really need to do it in a staging environment? Can't we just put it in?
And there are some cases. When it's okay. In some cases, it's okay. Yeah, no problems. We've got a backup, so we won't worry about the staging environment. If it all fails, we'll just restore the backup. We don't need that staging environment. Or the opposite. Oh, you know what? We've got a staging environment, so we won't bother backing up production. We're just going to switch the domain over to the new environment, and if all else fails, we'll just switch the domain back. There are ways you can get around it, but thinking about these things is so critical to small business and large business.
And I know that I've sent you customers, and we've both walked away shaking our heads, going, "They have no idea what is involved in this."
Yeah, well, at least we know that Elon Musk's Cybertruck will have all of these tests done.
We back on the old Cybertruck. Did you see?
Well, yeah, so Hummer are coming out with a electric.
We're gonna have a Cybertruck and a Hummer, and Hummer have outdone the Cybertruck. So
0 to 60 in 3 seconds.
Like a Lamborghini, the power, the braking power, you've got 11,500 pound per cubic foot torque.
Oh my God.
And the costs are going to be very similar.
Okay. Would you rather have a Cybertruck or a Hummer?
We have to try them both out. We have to try out the Cybertruck with the barbecue in the back, and the electric Hummer.
Maybe with a barbecue on the back.
Both with a barbecue on the back. Yeah, let's have it. I haven't actually seen any of the Hummer pictures. They were only released very recently. Be interesting to see them.
I've only seen the front grille on the ads.
With all the lights going along the middle of it.
Yeah, it's nice.
It looks a little sexy. I said I didn't say it looks a little sexy about the Cybertruck when we had that discussion.
No, this one definitely looks.
The grill of the Hummer is sexy.
It definitely looks a lot better. I mean, I'd still want a DeLorean, but this is fine.
Okay.
We also, with the coronavirus spreading around China, that's slowing down LCD production, and TV and monitor prices are looking to go up. So don't think about buying any TVs or monitor prices at the moment, or anything made in China for that matter.
Yeah, Samsung prices are about to go up. It's quite interesting hearing how many things are going to go up in price due to this. They're thinking between 10 and 20% price increase across the board.
It's really bad at the moment over there, and from what I can tell, this is the hard thing, is you can't tell these days because you can't trust any news. You can't trust what's coming out of the official sources all the time. We just don't know what's happening. I've seen some personal experiences through friends that I've got in those areas. I've seen some, secondhand personal experiences, and it's a worry. But I mean, the factories where these places are made, where these things are made, where the TVs and monitors and iPhones and any electronic gadgets, they're huge factories where lots of people go every day, and it's going to affect prices because it's they can produce less.
That's right. And we're not trying to take away anything around the devastation this may have on the population as this epidemic threat moves around. And I have friends whose family are in lockdown because they're stuck over in the cities over there. But what do we do? What do we do if we want a new monitor? What's going to happen to our phones? What's going to happen to all sorts of things?
I think that's a really good word. Want.
Do we want them or do we need them?
If you want a new monitor or you want a new phone, postpone it for a little while. If you need a new phone for one reason or another, or if you need a new monitor for one reason or another, think about how whether that is a want or a need. And that should go for all the time, anytime, for anything.
It is indeed. It is. And
listen to me being all utopian.
This is very much unlike you. And just for that, what did you do to me? I am a Chrome user. I don't like Internet Explorer. Last week you told me about Edge Chromium, so I said I'd try it. And now I have downloaded it on my laptop, on my home PC, and I'm only using it.
And suddenly your fans are not spinning as much.
I know. And of course, the only one thing that seemed to have a problem was our podcast today, which needed
podcasting
Chrome.
Software. Yeah,
our podcast software did not like Chromium for some reason. I'm not quite sure. We'll have to work through that one.
I'm sure they'll catch up.
But I'm enjoying it. I'm actually enjoying it. It's fast. It's using very small amounts of memory, which is what you said. And comparing with Chrome, I am very happy with it.
There's always been the big Apple, Microsoft, Google. What's the fourth one in that? There must be a fourth one. Facebook, I guess. You've got to have the big four: Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and I guess Amazon Web Services as well. So anyway.
We could go on and on here.
I'm going to stick to Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax.
And with that, I thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe. Please rate us, and I can't remember what else to say.
And we'll see you next time. Please leave some feedback for us if you see us on one of your podcasting tools, and we'll make sure to respond. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Michael.
Bye, David.